Start your day with a positive affirmation and intention. Since 1924, Daily Word Magazine has offered inspiration and practical teachings through daily prayer messages to help people of all faiths. Your subscription includes 2 months of daily affirmations, articles, and spiritual poetry to keep you inspired and motivated. Check out the digital subscription package that includes the online magazine with audio, smartphone app, and daily email. Get your subscription today. Visit dailyword.com or unity.org.
Discover the power within. Unity Online Radio. The voice of an awakening world.
You're listening to Jazzy Vegetarian Radio. I'm your host, Laura Theodore.
Jazzy, you're gonna be healthy with the Jazzy Vegetarian. Jazzy, so snazzy. We're gonna cook something healthy and light. Jazzy, so snazzy.
So stay tuned for Jazzy Vegetarian Radio. Let's get talking.
We're gonna cook something healthy and light. That's right.
Hello. Welcome to Jazzy Vegetarian Radio, where everything is vegan and delicious. I am your host, Laura Theodore, a.k.a. the Jazzy Vegetarian. And boy, have we got an inspirational hour planned for you today with an incredible human, Kedar G. He is a holistic well-being visionary. He's founder of the Bhakta School of Transformation. And Kedar G is going to share spiritual methods to conquer our fears. I am really looking forward to this program today. And I'm wishing good health and happiness to you and your loved ones, and hoping that this podcast today will inspire you. But before I bring Kedar G on the program today, we've got a little bit of jazzy news that I'm really looking forward to sharing with you. We've got our all-new season of Jazzy Vegetarian. It is going to premiere in many cities next week. Oh, my goodness. Some of the premieres coming up include WLIW 21 in New York City in the tri-state area, and that's starting May 23rd every Sunday at 1 p.m. EST, and NJPBS, which is all of New Jersey and that tri-state area, starting May 22nd every Saturday at 4:30 p.m. And I know we've got a lot of listeners in the Los Angeles area, and the good news is Empire KVCR starting May 23rd every Sunday at 2 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. So Denver, we've got Portland and Memphis. We're going to be giving some updates on Facebook over the weekend, so you're going to want to make sure to stay tuned to that. But, of course, those of you who are fans of the Create Network, Jazzy Vegetarian still continues to re-air all across the nation on the Create channel. We're still in Season 5 on Create, and it's every Sunday, every Monday. I share lots of fabulous, jazzy-licious vegan recipes, and I'll be talking about more information on this week's show on Create later today. Plus, I'll share my recipe of the week, which is going to be featured on Create this weekend. It's an easy summery appetizer, my jazzy veggie kebabs. It's an all-raw recipe, so stay tuned for that. And, of course, the companion cookbook to Season 9 is now available for pre-order on Amazon. If you've missed it, it's Easy Vegan Home Cooking. I can almost talk. Easy Vegan Home Cooking, over 125 plant-based and gluten-free recipes for the wholesome family meals. And, of course, you're going to be able to learn more about that at jazzyvegetarian.com. Well, it is now my great honor to welcome Kedar G, who is a holistic well-being visionary. Kedar G is the founder of the Bhakta School of Transformation, an Ohio-based not-for-profit public charity devoted to lasting inner peace and well-being. With his 4 pillars of total well-being as the foundation, Kedar G is a certified holistic healing practitioner, and he offers holistic and plant-based nutrition coaching along with meditation and chanting methods for spiritual growth. I'd like to bring him to the program right now. How are you today, Kedar G?
I am well, and thank you so much for having me back on. Good to be here.
Well, it is wonderful to have you here, and I must say I was so excited when you emailed me a while back and suggested that we do a program about addressing our fear and how we can cope with that, because so many people, including myself, Kate R.G., really do have a hard time, particularly these days, dealing with fear. And really, is there a way that fear can actually we can get rid of it completely?
Yes, indeed there is. Fear is a part of our mental conditioning. Unlike the premise that most people have heard, which is that fear is biological, the biological response to fear is secondary. It really is a part of our mental conditioning, and anything that's a part of our mental conditioning can be changed. And so I've been working at this with students who come to our school for more than 35 years, and with our methods, indeed, we know because we track them when they graduate courses and specific events. We track some people for up to 5-7 years to see how they're doing as they're applying the methods. So we know that they work if people will apply them. And people do experience that gradually they are released from fear and they eradicate fear completely. And I've done this in my own life with the same method.
Wow. Talk a little bit about your background. I know we did on the last program, but for those who haven't heard you speak before, just talk just for a minute or two. Give us a little background on how you came to where you are today.
Sure. I was raised in two traditions. So the first tradition was a holistic health, well-being, and healing tradition. I was very sick in my teens. I had some very serious chronic health conditions and diseases that had me debilitated. And as a result, as my mother took an interest in holistic well-being, she came across the work of George Oshawa in Europe and Japan, who had started the macrobiotic movement, is what it came to be known as. And then Oshawa came to New York to treat patients using acupuncture, and he brought with him his top disciple, Michio Kushi, whom he left here. And Michio opened what was known as the Kushi Institute, and was teaching acupuncture, acupressure, hands-on healing, Oriental medicine, Eastern medicine, and giving degrees in those. So I graduated from the Kushi Institute in 1976 with degrees in Oriental and Eastern medicine and acupuncture, acupressure, and also the traditional hands-on healing that was taught as part of Shintoism. Healed myself. The original macrobiotic approach was a whole food, plant-based approach with respect to lifestyle, with the spiritual methods of Shintoism combined, and some of the very powerful healing methods that were taught for centuries in Japan. And so that was my first upbringing. And then in my early 20s, I just felt there was something missing with respect to my understanding of life, is the best way I can put it. I began asking myself questions like, who am I? Why am I here? Why was I born? Is getting up, going to work, eating, sleeping, drinking, and eating, is this all there is to life? And that led me on a journey through Eastern Asia and Southeast Asia and Eastern India, where I finally found my spiritual guru and entered into a lineage of sadhus, which is like saying a lineage of monks, and was initiated into the lineage and taught over a period of 18 and a half years. I was mentored in the methods that I now teach at the Bhakta School that literally transformed my life. So combining these two was a complete transformation on every level, all the way down, I have a student likes to say, from soul to cell, and that's what happened.
Wow, that absolutely amazing. What an incredible journey. And so that's why I'm so excited that we're really going to focus in on fear today. But, of course, there are a lot of things that come entangled with fear, and one of them that you talk about is stress. And I know for me, and a lot of people that I speak to, once again, particularly over the past year and a half or so, is that they're experiencing fear, but at the same time, this overwhelming stress. And can you please speak a little bit about how living in a state of fear actually can cause stress?
Yes. So here's the science of it. The brain, the mind is the mother of the brain. And so whatever happens with our mind with respect to how we're responding or reacting to our environment, when there's a reaction, for example, the mind sends a signal to the brain, and it's a distress signal if there's a reaction that is based in fear. And that distress signal is encoded by the mind, translated into epigenetic communication, and sent down the central nervous system, and also sent down the vagus nerve into the gut. And when that happens, when that distress signal hits the cells, it begins to downregulate the mitochondrial function within our cells because the brain is under stress based on the signaling it has received from the mind. And so fear begins to translate into stress at that level where the brain is taking a distress signal like I'm frightened, I'm going to get sick from a contagion, and we're under a state of emergency, and that's all I'm thinking about. And so that reaction continues to send these stress signals to the brain. It translates it epigenetically into a down-regulating mode that impacts the function of our cellular respiration, decreases the function and the health of our cells. That's the stress part, that the fear mechanism puts stress on the signaling that then stresses literally the cells, and then everything devolves from there. That's the actual science of it.
Wow. So taking it one step further, so living in fear actually eventually, once it bypasses causing stress, then leads to possibly causing disease. Is that what I'm to understand, something like that?
Absolutely. There's a lot of peer-reviewed science on this, an incredible amount. And so, again, the science of it is this. Once cellular respiration is degraded, and that happens because the mitochondria, the cell burners within inside each and every one of our cells, their function is downregulated. It's interrupted. If a cell is not respiring properly and that is not arrested, then eventually the cell begins to ferment, use a fermentation process for continuing to create energy in the cell. And when that happens, the cell becomes eventually an oncogene, and oncogenes, of course, are the beginning of tumorigenesis and cancer. So I used to work with patients who were, for example, years ago, living in a state of fear that resulted in them being angry all the time. And over a course of many, many years, they developed cancer. And that was because the cellular respiration, the cellular function was downregulated, and that was never arrested. And so over an extended period of time, that cell that becomes an oncogene then begins to replicate. And now you have many oncogenes that are crowding out the healthy cells, and that's the beginning of cancer. That's just one disease I can name. Of course, it also impacts fear to stress to the cellular level, of course, impacts and can upregulate insulin resistance. That's where it starts for many, many people, and can upregulate diabetes, and then also stroke and heart disease. Those are the other ones. All because the cells are not allowed to respire properly when they are in a constant state of epigenetic communication that's based on fear, which is coming from a restless mind.
Wow.
And so that's a domino effect that goes all the way down to the cell. And that's, so yes, fear and stress. Stress, as you know, is very high up on the list of causes of disease. Even in the medical profession, they understand this now, the standard medical profession. And that's due to this process that I just described. That's the science of it.
Yeah, it makes perfect sense. So It's important for us to let go of fear, and to find a way that we can do that on a permanent basis. So what are a few of the basic and first steps we can take to do so?
So everything comes back to understanding where the fear mechanism starts and then how it's translated into stress, and that's in the mind. So the very first step in eradicating fear is to address the restless mind, and this is the case with everyone that we have worked with here at the Bhakti School. It was certainly my circumstance for many, many years that I had a very restless mind. And a restless mind is very reactive. And the moment fear is allowed to arise in the mind, intelligence is lost. Wherever there is fear, there is no intelligence, because fear creates paralysis, first at the mental level and then at the physical level. And then there's no way at that point to respond intelligently. Intelligence goes out the window. So the first step in eradicating fear is to use methods to make the mind calm, to keep the restless mind calm, and to gradually train the mind to become quiet. And what this does is this increases available mental energy. When the mind is quiet, when the restless mind is calmed, there's more available mental energy. The mind becomes sharper because you don't have to be thinking all the time. Eventually you develop the habit where you don't have to be thinking when you're not thinking, because the mind is enjoying a state of peace. It's enjoying being awash in the incredible ocean of joy that is within each and every one of us. So this is a matter of training the mind to be quiet, to be silent, and immediately there's a shift where fear gradually can no longer rise in the mind. When there's no fear in the mind, there is no possible biological response of fear in the body. It's not possible because everything starts with the mind. So that's the very first step. And always with fear and stress, we always begin by working with the mind in using the spiritual methods that we teach to calm the mind, and then connected to that, the understandings that we reach for, which I'll talk about a little later on.
Yeah, that makes perfect sense. You talked about something a few minutes ago about how when we first experience fear and stress and we feel that funny feeling in our gut, we feel that, in our stomach, or we say, oh, I'm sick to my stomach, or I don't feel well. And then you just talked about how it just kind of overtakes you. And I never thought about it that way, but that makes perfect sense. So there've got to be some steps that we can take, I'm hoping, to improve our overall mental state so we can begin to deal with all of this.
Yes, and so let me share some, but I want to address something that you just said because it's a very important point, and I'm so glad you brought it up. Good. Feeling sick to your stomach is literally that the epithelial cells in the gut are being downregulated because of that signaling that's going from the mind to the brain that's being translated into stress. So the stress signal that's being sent down the vagus nerve into the gut is actually interrupting the function of the epithelial cells in the gut lining, and hence the feeling I'm sick to my stomach. So just wanted to share that because that's, there's an exact science to this, and that's the science. That's how it happens. So how to, these are the steps. The focus is we've got to improve our mental state. This is the second of our 4 pillars of total well-being. And we start by addressing the restless mind to make it calm. And that's done by meditation methods that are employed with the understanding, the following understanding. First, the mind loves the places it frequents the most. So if we don't allow our minds to wander, and instead we direct the mind to the place where we want it to go, it will eventually love going there on its own, right? The mind loves the places it frequents the most. Secondly, we get what we meditate on. So whatever the mind focuses on, because the mind is an energy of divine consciousness, and that's why the mind is so powerful. So wherever we allow our mind to rest and focus for long periods of time, the mind literally takes on the qualities and the characteristics of that. And then the third is we become what we obey. So if we are in a situation where our minds are allowed to remain restless, and we're not addressing that, we become restless. We begin to live in a state of fear and to live in a state of stress. So the first step is, where do we direct the mind so that it can experience peace? Peace is an innate spiritual principle within each and every one of us. And all we simply have to do is to direct the mind to go beyond the experience of the mind and beyond the senses to that ocean of peace. First method, of course, is a meditation method that we use, and I'm going to offer it at the end or whenever you'd like me to, so that people have an experience of it, to calm the mind. And then meditation practice on a daily basis keeps the mind calm and turns the mind within consistently. And now the mind, as an energy of consciousness that is so powerful, begins to love being quiet, right? It loved restlessness. Now, because it's directed to peace, over time it begins to love that calm, to love that peace. And that's what we want. That's part of the training. And that's where this starts with respect to improving the mental state, because when the mind is at peace and it is experiencing the indescribable joy of our innate nature, then stress cannot rise.
Wow. That makes perfect sense. If you're just tuning into this program, our topic today is spiritual methods to conquer fears with Kedar G. He's a holistic well-being visionary and founder of the Bhakta School of Transformation. And we have about 4 minutes or 5 minutes until the break here. And there's something you talk about that really interested me. I have no idea what it is, Kedar G. It's what is the arc, and why is that important for becoming fearless?
So the arc is a method for increasing emotional resilience. So as human beings, it's important that we express our humanity. That's very healthy. But the problem is, for most of us, if we're not properly engaged, expressing our humanity sets us on the roller coaster of emotions that we're not able to master. So how can we express our humanity, which is healthy and we should, without becoming slaves to our emotions? That requires emotional resilience. It requires the ability to express emotions without having our inner state down-regulated by that expression. So in other words, I can express being upset when I'm not getting someone's sufficient enough attention for what I'm trying to convey, and I've been having to repeat myself over and over again. And now it's a concern because my neighbor has got a company coming, and they're putting pellets, drugs on the lawn to keep the weeds away. But now the guy is not watching the property line, and he's spreading all that stuff that pollutes the groundwater on my lawn. And I'm having to tell the neighbor this over and over again, simply, quietly, very lovingly, and he's not listening, and he keeps doing it, and now I've got to raise my voice, and I've got to get tough. How to do that without being angry on the inside, showing firmness without anger mounting on the inside to the point where it shifts my inner state. That's what the art does. We can begin to express our emotions and our humanity in a very healthy way without having any shift in our inner state away from peace and love.
That makes perfect sense, and certainly would help with our overall mental state. That makes complete sense. Just got a minute or here too, and just how do we start doing that? How do we start learning to, well, essentially get angry without getting angry? I know that's not exactly what you're saying, but
no, that's good. So I'll start it off right now before the break, and we can finish after the break. And here's the premise: the understandings that we reach for always dictate how we feel. Mm-hmm. That's the key. understandings dictate feelings and the subsequent emotions that we begin to experience as a result. Now, we can change the understandings that we reach for and embrace. So, for example, growing up, my mother was involved in the civil rights movement, and she grew up with great difficulty and great poverty. And as a result, one of the things that she taught me that I grew up without ever questioning until I finally started questioning it is, look, son, you're black. You're never going to be given the same privileges and opportunities that white people get, which is totally incorrect, but that was her state. And this is what she taught me. This is the understanding she gave me. You're black. You're going to have to work 1,000 times harder than everybody else, and still you're never going to get your due. Just understand that now. The sooner you get this, the better off you're going to be, is an understanding. And now I spent half my life embracing that understanding, and that understanding dictated how I felt. I had a chip on my shoulder. I was engaged in emotionality that I chose that kept me angry, that kept me resentful, all because of that understanding that I chose to reach for. So understandings dictate feelings. When we come back from the break, I'll lay out the practice of the art for you.
Fantastic. And that makes perfect sense, because I think we can all relate to that. We've all got something in our past that kind of stayed with us through periods of our life. Really, really well said. Our topic today, spiritual methods to conquer our fears, with the amazing, the one and only Kedar G. He's a holistic well-being visionary. He's the founder of the Bhakta School of Transformation. And later on in this program, at the end of the program, Kedar G is going to guide us through a wonderful meditation. He's also going to talk a little bit about our karmic baggage and a lot of other things that are very, very important to help alleviate our fears, which is something that I think we're all looking to do. So I'm Laura Theodore, and you are listening to Jazzy Vegetarian Radio, and we will be back with you in just a few minutes. So please stay tuned to this program.
Thanks for joining us. This is Unity Online Radio, the voice of an awakening world.
Welcome back to Jazzy Vegetarian with Laura Theodore.
We are back. We hope that you'll join our journey to a more compassionate world while embracing a happier, healthier, and kinder life. We are talking with Kedar G, and we are learning how to conquer our fears. And you were talking a little bit about the arc and a little bit about how we can learn about that. And I know you had a few more comments there.
Yes. So the arc is both a principle and a practice. So I'm going to share the principle first. The principle of the arc is that, again, the understandings we reach for and embrace dictate how we feel in the moment, and then the subsequent emotions that we find ourselves experiencing. And then what happens is that dictates how we're vibrating in the moment, meaning what we're putting out, what we're projecting back into our situations and circumstances and interactions with people, places, and things. And then from there, that dictates who and what we're attracting into our lives from moment to moment in varying circumstances. So it goes from understandings to feelings to what we're putting out, how we're vibrating, to what we then attract back into our lives is the principle, all based on the understandings that we reach for. So this is literally from within how we create our outer world from moment to moment. The understandings are part of our mental conditioning, right? And so if we take the arc as a practice, I'm going to give the first step now, and it's the most important step. And if the viewers are listening closely, you may want to take some quick notes. You can try this on your own. This is an examination that has to happen before we can begin to successfully practice the arc, and that is that we have to go back and we have to examine each and every understanding that we have accepted and embraced without ever questioning. Because as we grow up, there are lots of situations in which we beginning with our parents, who are our first authority figures. And so we get understandings from them that when we're young, we're not allowed to question. And then later on, if we don't think to question them, then they remain with us and we keep reaching for them. So that's one example. And then we have authority figures in school, etc. So we get our understandings from a number of different sources, and unfortunately, most of those sources are not from within our own divine nature. and so they're part of mental conditioning that's kind of heaped upon us. So the very first thing we do with the practice of the ARC is we make a list of people, places, and things from which we have gotten our present understandings from, and we check off which understandings that we still embrace without really having examined or questioned. So the list that we use is the following. Where do you get most of your understandings from, many of which you have not questioned? Is it from parents, or from friends, or lovers, husband, wife, perhaps from popular culture, from bosses and work associates in your employ, from books, newspapers, magazines, other authority figures in your life that you were endeared to, from movies, from TV, perhaps from peer pressure. People want to be accepted, and often we change our thinking. We embrace types of thinking and understandings just because we want to be accepted and we want to fit in. And so that's part of peer pressure. Or just from surfing the internet, our interactions on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Pinterest, from fears, right? That we have fears that come up. We don't know why, but they generate their own set of understandings that we embrace. How about from fantasies, right? People have fantasies of how they want their lives to look, who they want to come and go. So there are understandings connected to those, like I'll never be okay unless I find my soulmate, right? That's an understanding, and that's part of a fantasy. Or from outcomes from past situations that we perceive didn't go our way, right? So these are all of the sources of the understandings that we reach for and embrace. So we make a list. Who did we get these understandings from? Where did they come from? Which ones are the ones that I have never questioned? Have you accepted understandings connected to any of these sources? And then you examine that, and it's one question after that process. These understandings that I continue to reach for and embrace, are they useful for the direction in which I now want to go with respect to growing spiritually, with respect to increased well-being, with respect to vibrant health? Because if the answer to that question is no, these are the understandings that have to be discarded, literally discarded. They're left behind, never embraced again. So in that little story I was sharing with you about my mom, when I met my spiritual guru, he was very tough on me on this point, beginning with, why do you have such a chip on your shoulder? Why do you think that, you think that you're the only one who's suffering in the world? And you think this is attached or connected to the color of your skin? And so he began to teach me this principle and the practices connected to it. And the transformation with respect to who and what I attracted to my life was automatic, that I started attracting a different set of circumstances into my life. I stopped attracting, I'm driving on the highway. I'm only 5 miles per hour over the speed limit, but the cop stops me anyway. And now I'm upset that he stopped me because I was only 5 miles an hour over. So I curse him out. So he finds a way to give me many tickets, not just one. And then I say, well, it's because I'm black, right? That's why you stopped me, right? So that, attracting those kinds of circumstances, it was an immediate shift. And then as I embraced understandings via points of wisdom that my spiritual guru gave me, my life transformed with respect to the emotions I was experiencing. I got off the emotional treadmill. I was able to express humanity and emotions without becoming slaves to them. This was a gradual process, but it was all connected to the process I just shared, and then discarding understandings even understandings that my parents gave me. But I said, fine, maybe that was good for them, but it's not useful for me. And so I discarded them. And so this is a process of peeling the onion in this way until you're only left with understandings that are the most useful for your spiritual and health, well-being, and uplift.
Wow. Beautifully said, so clearly and concisely shared with us. I really, really appreciate that. It makes absolute perfect sense. And personally, I believe a lot of what you just said. I believe what you just said, actually.
I know you do.
Before you guide us through this wonderful meditation, just talk a little bit about karma. Karmic baggage is something that you talk about. And this is something that I would love to learn more about, and I know the listeners will too.
Yes. So the karmic baggage is the easiest way to understand it is that we have mental conditioning based on habits. And the reason I use the mantra karmas is because much of our mental conditioning and habits comes from past lives. And I know there's some people who don't believe in past lives, but we firmly recognize this as a fact. But whether you do or not, there is a pre-existence of mental conditioning that we bring into this world with us at birth. And that mental conditioning, we call that karmic baggage, that there's a predisposition to think, to feel, to act in a certain way based on mental constructs or notions that we're already in the habit of engaging, even from birth. But here we understand that to be based on karmas from past lives. We call these karmic patterns that dictate mental conditioning, and the karmic patterns of the baggage. And so this is why there are many, many people, when it comes to fear, for example, who are almost in a constant state of fear and don't understand why, even when they feel they've gotten over it. So to give an example, I had a friend who was a Navy SEAL, and he retired from the Navy SEALs. And this was a man who had gone on many missions where he had to rescue hostages, etc., in extremely life-threatening situations, right? Navy SEAL. And so for celebrating his retirement, we had this big party. We were all together, and we were at a friend of mine's house, and she had a little Shih Tzu terrier, a little dog, and the dog, for some reason, did not like my friend, and when he came in, the dog started barking loudly at him, nibbling at his ankles, and this Navy SEAL went berserk. He said,
wow.
Whose dog is this? Get rid of this dog. I don't like dogs. I can't stand dogs. Please, somebody get rid of the dog or I'm going to have to leave. Navy SEAL, wow. Right? Who thought he had no fears. So fear is very, very ingrained, and we can begin to reverse that by way of understanding that we do have mental conditioning that we bring into this life with us. So we examine it, and we pick it apart, so to speak, by way of, is this any longer any useful? And then, of course, there are spiritual methods with respect to mantra yoga, meditation, that automatically begin to dissolve these types of mental conditioning because these practices address the karmic baggage.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
By beginning by quieting the restless mind. Right?
Wow.
That's how we got the baggage, from having a restless mind for so long.
Yeah. That all makes perfect sense, and a good story, by the way. So I'm looking forward to you guiding us through a short meditation. We've got about 5 minutes here, focusing on your simple method on how we can calm our restless minds and help to conquer our fears.
Yes. So we'll begin.
Yes.
Everyone, you can just gently close your eyes and take a deep breath, inhaling slowly and steadily, as deeply as you can, and then exhaling slowly and steadily, as far as you can go. And now you can just maintain the awareness of your breath and listen to the sound that your breath makes. tune into the sound that your breath makes. And when you do this, you're going to notice that there is a slight pause after you inhale before you begin to exhale, and another slight natural pause after you exhale before you begin to inhale again. We call that the space between the breaths. If your mind is wandering, bring it back to focus on those two spaces along with the sounds that your breath makes. So we're just going to meditate in this way on the space between the breaths until you hear my voice again. Very good. So now you can just take a deep breath, inhaling steadily and slowly as far as you can go. And then stop the breath for a moment before you exhale. And now exhale slowly and steadily as far as you can go. And now you can gently open your eyes.
Wow. Thank you so much. So simple, but so effective.
Yes, and this can be done anywhere at any time, 3 to 5 minutes at a time. We just did 2.5 minutes, so if you're experiencing peace and greater joy, you can see how powerful this method is in such a short period of time. And it can be practiced for longer periods. Calm the restless mind.
Absolutely incredible. You are just amazing. I can't thank you enough for taking time out of your busy day to be with us today. And before you leave us, please just let us know where and about how people can learn more about your course on how to conquer fear now, and where they can go both physically and online.
So we have, it's very perfect timing, we have a Conquer Your Fears weekend online retreat starting in the first week of June. People can go to conqueryourfears.org, conqueryourfears.org. And for additional instruction on these methods and how to conquer fear, people can go to bhaktaschool.org, BHAKTA school.org. That's conqueryourfears.org, bhaktaschool.org.
I'm going to do it. And I hope we have a chance to do this again because, of course, I had so many questions and we didn't get through them all. So I'm just wishing you peace and good health and everything good. And thank you so much for being with us today.
And thank you so much. My pleasure. And I'll be happy to come back on to finish what we started here and more. Thank you so
Fantastic.
much. Enjoy your day.
Thank you. You too. Be well. Well, that's the amazing Kedar G, Spiritual Methods to Conquer Our Fears. And there was quite a bit we didn't get to today, so I'm hoping Kedar G is going to join us again soon. He is a holistic well-being visionary, founder of the Bhakti School of Transformation, and he's devoted to lasting inner peace and well-being. Kedar G shared methods to help us eradicate fear today. You can learn more about Kedar G at bhaktaschool.org. That's BHAKTA school.org. And conquer your fears, I think, is what he said was the other one. But go to the bhaktaschool.org. Great website. Great man. Thank you so much, Kedar G. And I do want to give a special thank you and shout out to Johannes Lindstedt, who provided the meditation music for today, Where Blue Skies Collide. And that's Johannes Lindstedt. You can learn more about Johannes at johanneslindstedt.com. So thank you so much, Johannes. Well, as I said earlier, in Jazzy News this week, Season 5 of Jazzy Vegetarian on public television does continue to re-air all across the nation on the Create channel every Sunday, every Monday. And this week, they're airing my holiday menu. But of course, all of my recipes you can make all year round. But this is one to jot down, keep in your mind for the winter holiday season. And it features stuffed green bell peppers, chocolate party parfaits with mocha cream, and my recipe of the week, which is coming up in a few minutes, my raw veggie kebabs. Very, very good. And actually, these chocolate party parfaits with mocha cream, you're going to find them on the website under episode 513, the recipes for episode 513. These chocolate party parfaits with mocha cream are actually perfect for a Memorial Weekend get-together because they are a chilled dessert, so they're very, very refreshing, very, very festive. And you might want to go to the website and grab that recipe, or you might want to tune in to the show this weekend. It airs Eastern Standard Time at 9:30 a.m. and on the coast at 10:30 p.m. in prime time. And I talked a little bit earlier about my new book, Easy Vegan Home Cooking, over 125 plant-based and gluten-free recipes for wholesome family meals. But I forgot to mention that you can pre-order this on Amazon. I did mention that, but starting this coming weekend, you're going to be able to pre-order a signed copy at jazzyvegetarian.com. Of course, the book isn't going to be released until October 26th, but you can sign up now and pre-purchase your copy, and you'll get a signed copy from me. And we're so proud to be on Unity Online Radio each and every Thursday at 3 o'clock Eastern Standard Time, 2 o'clock Central Time, 12 noon Pacific Time. And we just have an incredible lineup coming up this spring and fall. Next week, plant-powered dietitian Sharon Palmer is going to be here. I'll talk about that in just a minute. And coming up this spring, we also have board-certified oncology registered dietitian Allison Tierney. She's very, very interesting. And Emmy Award-winning actor Kiko Ellsworth is going to have some great health tips to share with us. So you want to check jazzyvegetarian.com. Just click on podcast. You're going to see the full lineup every single month. And, oh, yes, coming up in the fall, we've got a lot of our favorite cookbook authors coming on, which, of course, I'm always excited about talking about cookbooks. A couple of people, Diane Wenz, who's been with this program many times, and Hannah Kaminsky. So do join us each and every week. But I promised you that recipe of the week, my jazzy veggie kebabs. You know, a last-minute appetizer can be fancy. And, of course, I came up with this years ago when, yes, it was the last minute, and I was supposed to serve some appetizers. And I had some cherry tomatoes. I had some Queen green olives. I had some colorful bell peppers, sweet bell peppers, and I had zucchini. I didn't have cucumber. So you can make these raw veggie kebabs with your choice of veggies, anything you have in your refrigerator. If you don't want to use zucchini, what would be more conventional would be to use cucumber slices. You can also add canned artichoke hearts to this. And it's really easy. You just start off with 10 short bamboo kebab skewers or any kind of kebab skewers that you have, and 20 grape or cherry tomatoes. 10 pitted queen green or Kalamata olives are excellent with this, by the way, any kind of olives that you like. Half of a large sweet red, orange, or yellow bell pepper, just make sure it's a sweet pepper, cut it into 10 slices. You can also use the mini peppers for this. You just want to slice them in half lengthwise, scoop out the seeds, and then thread those on. That's really, really pretty way to do this. You could actually leave them whole, cut off the top, and scoop out the seeds. That would be a nice way to serve this as well. And then half of a zucchini or a cucumber cut into 10 slices. And then, as I said, marinated artichokes would be very nice with this. You could also do marinated mushrooms. That would be very nice. And then the dressing's very simple. 2 tablespoons of freshly squeezed lemon juice, a teaspoon of extra virgin olive oil. You can use more olive oil if you like a little bit more olive oil to it, just up to 1 tablespoon of extra virgin olive oil. I like Papa Vince olive oil for this, by the way. 6 to 10 basil leaves, very thinly sliced, or chopped parsley if you don't have basil, sea salt, pepper, and then you're just going to thread the bamboo skewers with 1 tomato, 1 olive, 1 pepper slice, a zucchini or cucumber slice, and finishing with a second tomato. Just kind of mix it up however you want. Arrange the kebabs on a pretty serving platter, and then you're going to put your dressing ingredients in a small bowl, briskly whisk until combined, and then just brush each kebab with your lemon sauce using a small pastry brush. You can just use a little spoon and kind of drizzle it over there. And then sprinkle the basil over the top, or the parsley, sprinkle that over the top. And chives would be fabulous with this too, spring onions. You get the picture. Season with a little more salt and pepper to taste. You can serve these room temperature, or the nice thing, if you're entertaining or you have large family dinner, you can refrigerate them for 1 to 2 hours beforehand. Serve them cold, a great way to serve it in the summertime. And if you are serving these as appetizers on a platter, you do want to serve some little plates on the side, napkins, of course, so everybody can take it and put it on a plate. This is also fine and dandy to serve as a first course. And if you do that, you're going to serve 1 or maybe 2, depending. If you're not going to have a salad, you could serve this instead of a salad. It'd be really nice. 1 or 2 of them on a plate, and garnishing them once again with the fresh herbs. So that's my Jazzy Veggie Kebabs. You're going to find that recipe at jazzyvegetarian.com, episode 513. And next week, our very special guest, Sharon Palmer. She's going to discuss her book, California Vegan, Inspiration and Recipes from the Golden State, focusing on the diverse story of California veganism. Very, very interesting. She's going to share a lot of tips for showcasing local produce and historical legacy. And, of course, she's always great giving us tips on plant-based eating. I can't thank you enough for being here with me today. I know you have a lot of podcasts you can listen to, and I'm so happy and honored you choose this one each and every week. So until next time, be happy, be healthy, but most of all, please be well. From the Jazzy Vegetarian.
Thank you for listening. This is Unity Online Radio, the voice of an awakening world.
Start your day with a positive affirmation and intention. Since 1924, Daily Word Magazine has offered inspiration and practical teachings through daily prayer messages to help people of all faiths. Your subscription includes 2 months of daily affirmations, articles, and spiritual poetry to keep you inspired and motivated. Check out the digital subscription package that includes the online magazine with audio, smartphone app, and daily email. Get your subscription today. Visit dailyword.com or unity.org.